Welcome, welcome, welcome. The traditional welcome, but we're going to add two at the end of this because we are joined by Nolan Nasser this evening from Deepwater Games. This is Table Crashers episode 43. I am Will. You guys all know me. And this is a bit of a holiday special because we took a little hiatus following PAX with Table Crashers, and we are back for this day, and then we're taking another little holiday break here. So, Nolan, welcome. Thank you for joining us this evening.
Thank you so much, Will. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. The Welcome 2 that we're going to be playing tonight, we're going to talk a little bit about that before we jump into sort of specifically talking about the game. Obviously, we want to know about you, Nolan. Some of your history with board games, your history with gaming. What really drives your passions and your
Definitely.
ethos, like and your core philosophy stuff. So,
absolutely.
Yeah, let me minimize core philosophy with the word stuff after it, right? And thank you for everybody who's joining us this evening. We are going to be doing a giveaway this evening for Welcome To, and then possibly some surprises depending on how festive you guys get out there and chat. You can enter with the !raffle command, and you'll be able to do that throughout the stream. If you are a sub to our channel, you actually have 4 extra chances of winning the giveaway this evening. Standard members in chat get 1 entry. The other ones get 5 for the raffle. So good luck to everybody tonight. Please, you'll see a QR code on the stream. You can use that to download the Scoresheet app and play along with us on the second part of this episode. Okay, so Nolan, right to the brass tacks here.
Definitely.
You're the CEO of Deepwater Games.
Mm-hmm.
Could you please describe that role? And yeah, I mean, because obviously this is something that developed over time. But what do you do as the CEO of a gaming board game company?
Definitely. When I figure it out, I will let you know. No, so the role right now is very. I do pretty much everything. I do a lot of everything, I should say, because I'm definitely not the only person in this operation. But I have my hands in a lot of different things. When we started this company, it looked like we started this company about 1.5 years ago, and it looked a lot different than it does today. And I got brought on actually not to be the CEO, but I got brought on to just be the creative director and the board game person. And then as it developed, it became pretty clear that I would have a pretty good perspective and just I would have to be making the executive decisions for this company. So. Yeah. What does the CEO do? I mean, for me, for this company, I do a lot of everything. I write contracts. I sign new games. I run profit loss statements. But I also, do a lot of creative things too, because that's what my background is in. Okay. So, I mean, today I was doing packaging design. Tomorrow I will be writing a contract, and the day after that I will be taking a meeting with a manufacturer. So, I mean, it's a lot of everything right now. And I think that is probably pretty standard for a lot of smaller companies where you have everybody just wearing a lot of different hats.
Right.
Like your one festive hat.
Like my festive hat here,
right.
My little Santa Will hat. Get in the mood,
Definitely.
So what's interesting about that is it's kind of a common thread that we see with a lot of independent board design publishing companies and design companies. It's the common thread is that a lot of them say that they enter the industry, wearing all the hats, and then as they grow alongside of their business, but then all of a sudden they can take hats off and put them on somebody else.
Right.
And then the next challenge there is that it's harder to remove those hats.
Right. Exactly.
from the equation later on.
Right.
But I mean, that's the full scope, because even though the stress of you not doing it anymore is removed, now you have the added stress of making sure the people that are now assigned those hats get it done.
Exactly. Right.
But it seems you've surrounded yourself with some pretty amazing talent. I'll shout out, to Ian at this point.
Definitely.
Ian and I actually met at Unpub, at the Unpub Mixer in Maryland. What was it, last year? And it was just like a passing conversation. And then when I saw him at your booth at PAX, I was like, wait a second, I know you.
Yeah, Ian's been an incredible asset. He's actually been with us since the beginning. He like helped a lot of this startup. Ian's been really incredible, and yeah, I feel really lucky to have surrounded myself by all these brilliant people. I want to say it was on purpose, but like I really do just feel like everybody's really pulled it together for, like, I mean, you saw us at PAX, like the whole team just like really came together.
They really did. Everybody was really activated and on task, and you ran a really efficient booth. It was kind of refreshing to see everything run so well, especially considering we came in there and just like destroyed everything with our stream for about a half hour. So
that's all right. Great time.
So what's your core philosophy at Deepwater?
So I would say that our core philosophy at Deepwater is that board games help promote communication. They help promote personal growth. They give people a foundation to grow from. And a big thing that I want to do with Deepwater is and a big reason that we produce the games that we do is because we want to make games more accessible to everybody. We want to grow the tabletop hobby. We want to create communities around games because they bring people together, and that's what I'm all about. And they bring people together face to face, not over the phones or over the internet or anything. And so like that's something that's extremely important to me.
Yeah, and I think that's the natural evolution. You probably were in the video game industry, not industry, but you were involved in video gaming. And
both, yeah.
Yeah, and there was that disconnect. I think that over time, the funny thing is, I remember as a kid, I said to myself, oh my God, multiplayer gaming is going to be so amazing when we can all get online and play a game together. And it did almost the reverse of that, and distanced people from each other, and that faceless presence. Because in my mind, when I was like playing video games with people, I was like, oh God, the future. Everybody will have a webcam on their face, like games like a space sim. You can actually have like almost like a simulated cockpit where you're talking to another player and you can see their expressions, and and then all of a sudden it turned into this troll universe. You know what I mean? So
exactly.
So I think I found myself floating for a while in the entertainment aspect of video games, and then all of a sudden board games was like, wait, this is that feeling of the 007 days of playing Bond on the N64 next to my best friends. I got it back when board gaming entered my life.
That's such a good point, because that was my evolution too, where it was like, playing LAN parties on the original Xbox, and then online gaming, and now board games are my preferred method of game.
Okay, you can go ahead. So Ian Zang is actually with us on voice. So Ian, are you with us?
I am now here. Yes.
Ian, welcome to the stream.
Hi,
sorry we couldn't fit you in on the video here, but you're going to be the disembodied voice contributing to our conversation this evening. Welcome.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm glad that I could join at short notice.
Yeah, we were just talking about how awesome you are, and like joining at short notice is one of the reasons you're awesome.
Yeah, don't think that that's a good thing. It just means that I'm not busy right now, which is probably a good thing.
Yeah, get back to work, Ian.
We talked about we're talking about the role of CEO, that Nolan is sort of wearing the mantle of CEO. We talked about the course philosophy, and now, how did it all begin for you, Nolan? What were the seeds that were planted that sort of got you where you are today?
Yeah, so it's really funny, and actually, I mean, Ian was a part of it all starting too. Like I mentioned, originally, it was midway through last year, 2017. I decided that I wanted to quit freelancing for other games and other publishing companies and start my own publishing company. And originally what I wanted to do is take like the Ryan Lockett approach with Red Raven Games, where he like designs the games, does all the art for them, like creates these worlds and stories and stuff like that. And I was working with Ian at the time on a game he and I were both designing, and I was gonna do all the art for it and create all that stuff. And so I started I started just shopping around for shipping, logistics, manufacturing, and talking to all the contacts that I had. One of the people that I knew, I had asked him about like shipping and warehousing quotes because I knew he ran a shipping and warehousing company.
Right.
And when I asked him, he's like, "Why?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm starting a publishing company, so can you just give me the quotes?" And he's like, "Hold on." And about 10 minutes later, I got a phone call from him and my now other business partner, Travis. And they're like, "You're starting a publishing company?" I'm like, "Yeah." They're like, "We're starting a publishing company."
No way.
And they kind of told me what they were trying to do, and it was really impressive. And I told them what I brought to the table too, and they're like, it was just like kind of a perfect fit where I was the missing link in their company, and they were the missing pieces of what I needed. So yeah, that was how it all started.
And that's great. So like basically, you're probing and trying to get the information from them, and all of a sudden there's almost like that record scratch, like.
Yeah.
Hold on a second. Wait, you're doing this and I'm doing that. Why don't we just combine efforts and do this
exactly?
Together? Yep. Everybody can. Now, the other thing you mentioned, you also have an art background, and so I can tell you, for me as a hobby designer, hoping to enter the field eventually, and I am working on some designs currently, but the frustrating point for me is I don't have that art background, and everything I try to scratch together is like good enough for prototyping, but I know I can't hit that final product. Dude. What kind of stress is on you with the ability to do the art, and you're also putting the design stuff together in your head as well?
So it's really interesting because that stress ebbs and flows, because in some cases it's super stressful. Like, I handle almost all of our art direction. I handle all of our layout design, our packaging design, everything. And so when we have a lot of stuff going on, like right now, I'm like really under crunch. Like I'm doing pre-press. I'm making marketing images for another game we have coming out. Like I'm doing everything. Right. But then at other times where I have less of a workload, and I'm like, man, I want to like get this idea in my head out on paper. I have that art background, which allows me, and that art background, and like the design and layout background, where I can very quickly put together like prototypes and things like that look really good. And so like when we are prototyping a new game, like I can put something together really quickly that looks really solid. And I think that's super helpful. And I would suggest definitely, if you are a hobby designer, learn Photoshop, learn InDesign. They're invaluable tools.
Yeah, and I think, and that brings us to next. Sorry, my son is on the other side of the door screaming, and I'm very sorry, guys.
I don't know.
Hopefully, he gets scooped away real quick by mommy. Otherwise, he's just kicking the door and screaming. So, it brings me to sort of the next point. What is in your toolbox as a designer and as an artist, in terms of software and other things you utilize?
Yeah, so I mean, right now, all of the open apps I'm looking at my desktop, all my open apps, I've got Word, Excel, Slack, InDesign, Illustrator, Photoshop, and Spotify. Those are all the crucial
probably
things.
Most important to give you that motivation.
Definitely.
Right?
What about you, Ian? Like, what's in your Because I know you use a lot of these apps as well. In fact, Ian taught me a lot of cool tricks and things like that for using InDesign and Photoshop for game design.
Absolutely, Ian. What's in your toolbox? What's in your wallet?
Now, I'm looking at the bottom of my screen. I also have Excel. I have Illustrator. I have InDesign. I have Audition, but that's separate. That's for other things. But I don't use Photoshop as very often, just because it's such a different program. But I use most like vector images anyway, so it's easy to use Illustrator off the cuff from point to point if I need something quick and dirty. But InDesign is my bread and butter, just because I can create 18 billion cards in 30 seconds. And if I need to change something, it's simply going into the Excel document and changing it there, rather than having to literally go through each and every single card and edit it in a Photoshop file, which is what I started doing. And when I learned of data merge, I never went back ever. And now I basically see games as Excel spreadsheets now. It's kind of like the Matrix.
Yeah, and actually, that's what's really funny is that's actually where I went after a few weeks within doing my design stuff. Is I immediately jumped to using spreadsheets to hash out, the balancing, the stat balancing, and then if you're going to do add-ons or expansions in the future, hashing out some of that stuff on like a separate page, asymmetric leaders and stuff like that. If you're going to throw them into a core design as a curveball, you start brewing that up in a spreadsheet, and then it runs from the spreadsheet onto the card, which I think is hilarious too.
Yeah.
There's really no other way to do it, in my opinion. After like just muddling through with like notebooks and stuff like that, the spreadsheet is probably the easiest way to manage all that.
Just Definitely. In terms of data management, it's so much easier too, because again, like you said, the power of Excel is actually outside the knowledge base of like the general user. There's a lot of other analytics that you can do that
with spreadsheet.
Yeah, that aren't available. So I'm developing a game that has symmetrical decks for the most part, but each deck has a different combination of symbols. It's the same. Each faction only has 3 of the 4 symbols, but everyone has the same layout. And so what I did was I literally did +1 equals +1, and then converted everything at the end so that now I have everything just done and I don't need to worry about it ever again.
Yeah, that is phenomenal. So I'll start with Nolan, because now we have both of you guys here, so this is actually awesome. Again, thanks for both of you guys joining me this evening.
Thank you.
So Nolan, what's the hardest part of your job?
With me.
Oh man. That is a really great question. I mean, it really varies day to day. Some days it is just managing. I mean, I guess I could probably sum it up to just time management and being productive and things like that. I work a lot, and prioritizing work-life balance is also really difficult. I think also just the decision making too is pretty difficult, because I evaluating game and you're I think we're going to sell X amount of this game every year, and having to make that decision and know that if you don't hit those goals, then that's all riding on that decision that you made. And not just that too, I mean just the decisions of bringing people into the company and hiring contractors, hiring new employees, that sort of thing. Just managing all of that too. The decisions are definitely stressful.
Yeah, and especially when you're at the higher level. So I'm gonna bounce it over to Ian. Outside of dealing with Nolan on a daily basis, what is the hardest part of your job?
I mean, hard is relative. I mean,
it really depends. And I guess that's what I'm looking for, is your perspective of it. Your personally, what do you find is the most difficult part of getting done what you want to get done? What's the
when you have a project nearly done and you want it, we're at Sovereign Skies right now, and I'm ready to be done with this project.
Right.
We've been working on it for
literally 1 year.
Yes, literally 1 year, and
we signed a game a year ago.
I'm ready to have that done. So that's kind of the hardest part, finding the motivation to really work through all of the various pieces of it. I think it's once I get into the swing of things, it's fine. But Sovereign Skies, one more time. I'm sorry, Aaron, if you're listening to this, I'm super sorry.
Well, what's great though is that Ian and Aaron have done so much of the development work on Sovereign Skies, and I've actually not been as big of a part of it as I originally anticipated being. But now that now that they're done with the mechanics, done with the development, stuff like that, it's passing off to Aaron and I are working on the art direction and things like that. I'm getting more excited about it. I can't wait to start getting everything finalized, getting seeing this game really come together. And so but I feel you, Ian.
Yeah, and I definitely feel what you touched on there, Ian. And it's funny because it's because in your mind I feel that the core mechanics of the game are already done, and you've been looking at it for so long, and then you start second guessing some of the tweaks you're doing, right? And you're just I don't want to I don't want to keep going back to the spreadsheet and making these little tweaks. Is that the feeling you're feeling right at this point?
I wouldn't say that. I think it's what designing little mini expansions, and it's not that I'm second guessing. It's just that I don't think it's the second guessing. I think it's more just coming out of fatigue. Just
okay.
Over like seeing something over and over, and new projects coming in and being like, I wanted to work on that now.
Right.
I mean, that's the biggest difficulty. So,
right. And you mentioned Sovereign Skies.
Yes.
And it's a good segue. I'm really excited for Sovereign Skies. I'm a huge space and sci-fi person. Could you distill some of the mechanics down for us and let us know what we're kind of looking forward to there, if you don't mind?
Or Nolan, do you want to take this?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. So my favorite thing about Sovereign Skies is that it is it's a really great gateway game into like heavier strategy games because it revolves around like very simple actions and mechanics that all tie. And then also everything, like every action that you take kind of influences everything else that you do, which is really cool. Right. Stepping back and talking about like the theme, like all of the mechanics really tie in really well to the theme and things like that. You're playing as these factions who like discover the system, and you are starting to like trade and like develop infrastructure on their planets and things like that, and you're starting to like work with their governments and that sort of thing, and trade knowledge and resources. Cool. And the main resource that you're working with or one of the main resources that you're working with, other than the energy that powers your ships and powers like faster than light travel and things like that, you're working with loyalty and traits. And so you are gain people's loyalty and pledge your loyalty to people by using these traits and showing them that you are on their side and that you are
very cool.
That's one of my favorite things about it. And then I mean, there's you're going to be there's area majority. There is it's kind of like it's rondel movements, action selection.
Okay.
And then
we've also got blended together in a new way.
Yeah.
That's a great way.
I'll touch on rondel movement. Rondel seems to be coming back in a really heavy way at the end of this year and going into the next year. You're seeing a lot of rondel movement where you move around the rondel and then choose one of a chosen point of actions. Any reason you can think of that? The only reason I can think is because everybody's sort of wanting that heavier story and heavier simulation, but they're trying to distill it down for your average gamer or board gamer. And I think rondel is probably the easiest way to do that. Yeah.
So I personally love rondels because it removes a step of decisions where it's like, okay, I only have these decisions because these are the spaces in front of me. So like, how can I best choose from those things? Whereas like if you're talking strictly like worker placement or action selection, you're like, here's 24 decisions to make. You pick which one's the best.
It's like a strategy crutch in a way.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And like I love heavy, thick, thinky games, but I don't have a lot of time to play heavy, thick, thinky games, and I also definitely don't have a lot of brain power to do it at the end of my day. And I feel like a lot of people who want to play board games are probably like that too, but need that or that sort of helps them bridge that gap.
Yeah, Ian, same thought process for you on that as well.
Yeah, it's the thing that I really liked about it was you have who comes to this game will be able to find fun, because someone who is a casual gamer doesn't have to think too hard about what they're doing.
Right.
Game and just go one space every turn and see what happens, deciding what actions to do and when. You get it past that, then you open up a few more actions. It's like, oh, I could just pay one more energy and do that action instead.
Right.
Actions on the table. It makes it very easy to... The decision space is not that big. It's a very... In that, again, like Nolan said, turn can potentially affect the rest of the game.
Yeah.
Or not the rest of the game, maybe the next 4 turns. If you don't go to the energy planet and pick up a few more energy, you might be hurting for a little bit. It might be oh no.
Yeah, but it brings that stress and that the anxiety that some people really like to feel in like a strat game, and then the better feeling where you hit that right change on the rondelle, and you're like, oh wait, I was bad, but now I'm good again.
Yeah.
Also been some really good design space, because we've found some issues, like what happens when you get stuck and you didn't go to that energy planet. Well, we were able to create other mechanics that supported that niche in a way that allows for the flexibility. If you make a mistake, it's not the end of the world.
Right.
You might need to take one turn to kind of like energy, because at any planet there's 3 actions. If you only do one of them, you get an energy. So really want to do, just save up the energy, and now you have your flexibility back.
Right.
Energy is flexibility in the game. The more you have, the more flexible you are, but you have to spend it.
but there's still a solid strat underlined from the flexibility. So like if you have a main strategy that wouldn't really require the flexibility, you can go that line, but you have to be really experienced and well versed in the game to be able to even jump that way.
Exactly.
That's awesome. So I'm going to go ahead before we jump into the table here. I have a few questions I'll hit both you guys with here, and some of these are my fun questions. And then we'll talk a little bit about Welcome to specifically, and then we'll jump to the table. So first, Nolan, what is your favorite game mechanic?
What's my favorite game mechanic?
Yeah,
I would have to say it's something social, not necessarily like social deduction. For example, like I really love the politics phase in Twilight Imperium, because of like how it gets people interacting and things like that. And I do also love social deduction. I love I love like kind of role playing and like trying to figure out who's a spy and who's not. So it's probably I would say that's probably my favorite mechanic.
Excellent. Same question, shooting right over to you, Ian.
Say power progression.
Okay.
Nice.
Do you have an example of your favorite game that employs that?
Probably be Spirit Island, if anything.
Yeah.
Where start out really like you start the game with not a lot of power, but over the course of the game you unlock the power. StarCraft also had this. StarCraft, the board game, where
of course,
you start with a very small little army, but then you can build up to this like massive tank, or you can just get really specialized depending on how you want to play it. Now that I think about that, that is kind of how.
So upgrades in like engine building.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So it's just the gradual building, and like there's a power spike, and it's just that feeling of like, okay, I can do things now. It feels really good.
Never really thought about that. But like Spirit Island is just like a really elegant tech tree designed into a game that I feel like you don't see a lot of other games have as well designed tech trees.
Excellent.
About Spirit Island, I love that game.
So I got another one for you guys. That was the fun one. This is what sometimes people have a little issue with. But so what is, Nolan, we'll start with you. What is your guilty pleasure game? So what is your game that you love that sometimes you're ashamed to share it with other people?
I mean, I feel like for some people, my answer for some people would be a guilty pleasure, but it'd be The Mind. But that's just because I think that game's great. I know a lot of people hate that game, but like that.
I love that too. I'm with you, Nolan.
Yep. But do I have a guilty pleasure? I'm like, I just want. I feel like, I mean, Magic. I love that game so much, and I haven't played competitively in years, but I definitely just got onto MTG Arena and have been spending way more time than I should on that.
Of course. I transitioned to the Commander game type because then I can keep up with decks, and it doesn't break my bank. Like I can have maybe 3 archetype decks and then just pepper cards in, and it lets me play socially with my friends. But yeah, standard I stay away from. Modern, I'm not going to spend thousands of dollars on a deck right now. Legacy, forget it.
Right.
But that's awesome. So Ian, your guilty pleasure game.
My guilty pleasure game. Now, I mean, that's probably Twilight Imperium, because it's like I feel bad for the people that I subject that to, but
yes,
I can't get enough of that game either. It's especially the 4th edition. Like it's an itch that doesn't
So honestly, how often do you get through a Twilight Imperium game? Like in a, how often do you play? Is it like once every couple months?
Play
Once a
very
year?
often since I moved to Pittsburgh.
Okay.
There just aren't very many people here, but Twilight Imperium for about I think 6 times now.
Yeah. Matt actually, producer in my ear, just started laughing. Said when Ian stated, there aren't that many people in Pittsburgh. You let him go with that one.
Twilight Imperium.
Twilight Imperium people. Yeah. What Yins don't?
Because
Yins
I mean,
don't
like,
play
there's
the regular
a lot of
board
good
games,
game
like
groups
Catan.
like more casual audiences here, which is great
Yes.
because like a lot of the games that Deepwater makes are more aimed at the casual market. So I have will play with me when we're talking about Deepwater. But if I say you want to play a 6-hour game and it's going to be heavy and you're going to have to watch a 45-minute rules video beforehand, yeah, no, they're not going to be okay with that.
Yeah, not going to work. Not going to work. So this is, you guys can tag team this one because it's something I like to ask a lot of our guests. But where do you guys see the industry headed in the future? The modern board game industry, and that could be a couple months, maybe a few years down the road. What do you see? Where do you see us in a few years with this industry?
This is a heavy question. There's a lot.
No, there is, and that's why, like, you guys can tag team it. You guys can cherry pick a topic related to this, and sort of let us know how you feel about it.
Kickstarter for one is going to become like harder and harder to like. There's going to be a bigger and bigger gap in the types of games that are kickstarted. You're going to see so much less games that are like, oh, this is the game I made, and I just want to get the money funded to produce it. And you're going to see way bigger companies with like tens of thousands of dollars into marketing and production just for the Kickstarter, kickstarting games, and that whole field is going to become really interesting.
Yeah, a little bit of a minefield for the individual and the independent, which is kind of funny because it's almost counterintuitive because the whole idea of Kickstarter is that it gives power to the individual,
right?
And then you're seeing these manipulation tactics on the back end, and it's kind of the necessary evil in some ways, but I mean I can go on a whole tirade about it. Everybody that watches the channel knows my feelings about that situation, but no, I think that's a very solid observation. Ian, what are your thoughts? And again, you don't have to go off the same one. You can cherry pick a topic.
On my podcast, this is the final question we always ask our guests, so I'm a little primed for this one. So,
okay, great.
I think the biggest thing that we're going to see is a big influx from families. Board games have gotten to a point, like modern board gaming has gotten to a point where it's starting to integrate into the zeitgeist of the general public.
And classic gaming is almost like a blend that's happening. I agree. Go ahead.
We're going to see a lot of Target families and Barnes & Noble and Target are going to be picking up, the light to medium, like family games that like light strategy. That's kind of what I was targeting with Sovereign Skies in the development process. I wanted it to be something that you could potentially bring to a family gathering, and it's not something that you have to play very seriously. It's just, but you could if you want to. And I feel like there's going to be a lot like that. Azul is a perfect example of one of these kind of games where it's very simple to pick up. You don't really have to try very hard but no matter what you do, you're going to do something, and it's going to feel good.
Right. Even if you lose at the end, even if you're not paying like 100% attention, you can still socialize with friends at the table. The scores are going to come pretty close, so you never feel like you just got like destroyed, even if you didn't give it your full attention.
Close. I saw Dadmiral Akbar in the Twitch chat just said King Domino, and I think I agree.
My God, yes. And that's. And it's funny you mentioned that because it's Christmas time, and I actually have a family gathering 22nd, which is my birthday, but it's actually not for my birthday. It's the Christmas party we do as a family before Christmas, and I always bring the games. And every year my struggle is, I got the new hotness, I want to play it. But my family gets fatigued because sometimes I'll bring, even if it's family oriented, they're like, why don't you just bring the game we liked last year? Why do you have to bring like all these games? You're a little overwhelmed. So, but King Domino is one of those classic ones that I could bring every year and everybody's going to love playing it. Code Names, which I guess is on the border. That's actually one of my guilty pleasure games, because I think the rap it has in the industry right now is that it's not a modern board game in a way, but whatever. We can argue that later. Code Names is great for my families, my like family gatherings as well. So
I agree. Codenames, a big one that we've brought out a lot is Decrypto as well. It's
okay.
Where there's, once you get past the first round, it's like, okay, we're all in. Let's do this. I just got Trap Words. I'm excited to bring that out.
Dixit's another really good one for like general family games. So, but yeah. So, with all that being said, let's actually discuss specifically Welcome to, and then we're going to crash this table. I swear, guys. I had Nolan, I had Ian. These guys are, and I want to make sure we got to give due diligence to the time we got to speak with them tonight. So this was a distribution deal game for you, Nolan. This wasn't like an in-house design. This is something that was designed elsewhere. It popped up on your radar at some point. Could you walk us through and the audience through, what does that look like? Because I think it's something that's starting to happen a little bit more in the industry. And what was that process, and what was the experience like for you?
It's totally different with every publisher that you work with. Because I mean, we have multiple publishers that we import localized games from, but specifically for Welcome to, it was, I mean, I saw this game played once and I was like, I have to publish that. And so the next day I called the original publisher. The original publisher is French, Blue Cocker, and called them and was like, hey, I love this game. I really want to publish it, and I want to publish the English version of it in the US. And so like, and like a couple weeks later, we signed it, and then like 3 days after signing it, went to print on the first print run. So we had 3 days to edit everything. Yep. Oh yeah, I worked for like 18 hours a day, 3 days in a row. It was ridiculous, but got it ready for that first print run. So but I mean, like the way it works is like, you find a game that because a lot of a lot of people from other countries, especially smaller European countries, smaller Asian countries, want to make these games and publish them, but the markets are not, like, in their countries are not as big as the US or all of the EU as a whole. So they look for partners to help publish their games. And the thing is that like a lot of them want the publishers to help like support, market, push these games in those other countries, because they're not going to be able to do that. And so that's where like a US publisher, English publisher comes in. Is we open those doors, and we also open up a lot of other doors. Like we have a lot of other connections and distribution channels and things like that, as well as other paths with the IP that we're working with. So I mean, like we'll get a game, we'll localize it, we'll like edit all the rules. If they have English rules, we'll edit those English rules. We'll see if there's anything that we can add to it. Like in terms of Welcome to, like we helped develop the mini expansions and things like that, and we're like, this is like going to be really great support for retail stores of like having this, not only this hot game, but like also these cool things that like are going to be available through retail.
Right. Now the expansions, is that still worked into a contract with the original designers? And so basically, but you guys are developing those in-house, right? You guys are the ones developing those expansions.
So we developed some of them. Then also the original designer developed a lot of them.
That's
as well.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. I didn't realize that. So there's actually still this communication between you and the publisher, the original publisher. That's great.
Yeah. I just had a call with them earlier today, and there's going to be even more cool stuff that we're doing together moving forward.